this time, we are joined by the Democratic Alliance Member of Parliament and the party's Shadow Minister of Education, Baxolile Nodada. Now, the party is disputing the Department of Basic Education's pass rate of 80.1%, and it believes that the actual pass rate is 54.6%. And Mr. Nodada, let's speak to you now. Good morning, and you were at that ceremony yesterday. Where do you get the 54.6% pass rate, which you say is the real pass rate, against the 80.1%?
Good morning, Xoli, and good morning as well to your viewers. I think before answering that, it's important to congratulate the class of 2022. We know that they've endured a lot of hardships in terms of the lockdowns. There's been a lot of load shedding during their study time. Some experienced protests, some experienced floods in some provinces. So we know that they've been through a lot. So it's important to congratulate them and celebrate them for being able to push through these challenges. We know that teachers have also gone the extra mile to make sure that these learners are prepared for these exams, and most importantly, the parental support. Now, to come to your question, Xoli, it's very important that we speak on a principle of being open and honest when we're announcing Matric results. Where we do the calculation is that we take the full cohort of this particular class of 2022 that was supposed to complete Matric this year, and we detract or we subtract what the dropout rate is. For example, in this class, there's over 337,000 learners that have dropped out of the system that were supposed to complete Matric this year. And we put it into that particular calculation, having considered that there are some learners that leave to go to TVET colleges and so on. But this particular cohort have left learners out of the system completely, and then they are unaccounted for when we actually do the Matric results. Now, the mistake we make sometimes is that we say, look, it's only these learners that wrote, and therefore this is how we calculate the Matric pass rate. But it's important to make sure that there's no learner that is left behind when we account for this cohort or group of learners that were supposed to complete Matric. It's been mentioned yesterday by the DG in his technical report and by the Minister that we do have a challenge of a dropout rate, even though it may be decreasing slightly, but there's still a massive problem, because 3.5 million youth are not in education, employment, or training, and that has increased in the third quarter, based on Stats SA last year, to 3.8 million, meaning that these South Africans, these young learners and youth, join the 7 in every 10 young people that are unemployed. So it's very important that we curb that particular challenge and we address it as is. In our celebratory mood, we need to be honest about the outcomes of this particular Matric class.
Yeah. So while the country, Mr. Nodada, will appreciate the kind of work you have done to come to your calculations of a 54.6%, and that dropout rate, over 300,000 learners dropping out of the school system, that is something to be very concerned about, because that contributes to the army of unemployed young South Africans that we cannot reduce by any measure. Again, though, I have to impress upon you as to how you came to this figure of 54.6 versus such a high figure of 80.1% as a pass rate.
Look, well, let me make it simple for you in terms of, I'm sure you want me to do mathematics here, but let me make it simple for you, Xoli. You take the number of learners that have wrote, the cohort that have wrote in this particular examination, right? And then you add the dropouts to that particular number, right? And then you determine, based on that full number, so you add the 337,000 learners to the 920,000 learners. Then you divide by those that have actually passed the Matric exam. You then look at the outcome of that number. It becomes 54.6%. Now, let me even share something more interesting with you, Xoli. If you look at the provinces that actually have the highest dropout rate, is Northern Cape at 41.6% and the Free State at 40.6%. So it's all good and well to celebrate a very high outcome as purported by the Minister. But in reality is that there are a lot of children that are leaving the school system in these 3 years when they're supposed to complete Matric. And it cannot be that, yes, in our celebratory mood, not taking away from the hard work of these young learners and congratulating them, that we must now leave learners behind that have been unaccounted for in the system. It's also our responsibility. Because at a later stage, we're going to say, oh, why is the unemployment rate so high? Why is the youth not in education and employment or training so high? And what happens to those particular learners?
Yeah.
They end up living a lifetime of unemployment and poverty. So it's important that we account for them so that we're able to, in future, reduce that number to the lowest possible number that we can have, and make sure that we retain those learners. They are in school so that they can have a future at the end of the day. So accounting for them is important without taking away the hard work and the congratulatory message that we give to the matrics that have passed in this particular year.
Sure. Let's then talk to the quality of this pass rate, Mr. Nodada. The class of 2022, the minister says they have achieved the highest number of bachelor passes in the history of South Africa's National Senior Certificate. My question to you has to do with, number one, whether you agree with that sentiment that this is indeed the highest achievement that this country has seen when it comes to students who have obtained a university entrance result.
Look, Xoli, on principle, the minister is correct in terms of this is the highest bachelor's pass percentage that the department has received. But again, for me, it's a principle conversation. That highest number is 38% of the total cohort of learners. So only 38% of the learners that wrote the matric exam and passed in 2022 actually received a bachelor's pass. Now that is still significantly low, Xoli, and it talks to the second principle that, second challenge that we have after dropouts is the quality of education. I want you to consider that some subjects you can pass as low as 30%, even in the segment of the bachelor's pass. And you still have as low as 38% of learners acquiring a bachelor's pass. Now, what does that say, Xoli? It means there's a vast majority of learners that won't be able to access institutions of higher learning or in particular universities. They may still, those that have a diploma pass, still access some comprehensive universities that we put them that may offer diploma qualifications, or ultimately a TVET college that may offer, from N5 upwards in terms of the NCV and native. But the reality of the situation is this, that a vast majority of those learners won't actually be able to use a particular NSC certificate to be able to go look for work or create their own work, because the type of skill that they've acquired, they can't necessarily participate in the economy. And last point in this thing of quality. Now the 38% that have got the bachelor's pass, I've requested the minister and the DG that we need to start tracking and tracing the learners that exit in matric. Where exactly are they? Are they in varsity? Are they working? Where are they? So that you can see the impact of the NSC certificate. Because you'll find that 38%, some of them won't even make it into university because universities have got these APS points system that they have. And I've been in that sector myself. You've got a bachelor's pass, but you've got 27 points. No institution, no university wants to take you because you don't meet the minimum requirements because you've passed maybe one subject with 30% as an example. So we need to be honest in terms of accounting for these matric results. That yes, it may be high at 38% based on previous results, but it's still significantly low. Look at the IEB results. 89% of those learners will access a university. Almost all of them will be able to access a tertiary institution at the least. So we need to measure ourselves against high standards and not be comfortable with mediocre or low standards because it's not popular to say at this point in time. Because at the end of the day, those learners will join many in the ranks of unemployment and living a lifetime of poverty dependent on the state. And that's what we should avoid when we fight to provide good quality education.
But Xoli Nodada, let's leave the conversation there. Our next engagement, and I'm making that proposal right now, is going to be about the province that is run by your government, the Western Cape. I think you are number 4 on the list. I want to know what's going on. That province was once number 1 many, many moons ago. But let's leave this conversation at the moment. Baxolile Nodada is a member of the Democratic Alliance, a member of Parliament, specifically dealing with the issues of education.